As tensions continue to rise in West Asia, Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system went into action early Sunday, intercepting a barrage of rockets. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden expressed hope that Iran would stand down despite its threat to avenge the assassination of Hamas's leader in Tehran, as fears mounted that Israel-Gaza conflict could escalate into a wider West Asia conflict. Haniyeh's death was one in a series of killings of senior Hamas figures as the Gaza conflict nears its 11th month. Hamas has said it had begun a broad consultation process to choose a new leader. Seeking to bolster defenses in West Asia in response to threats from Israel's foes, the Pentagon said on Friday it would deploy additional fighter jets and Navy warships to the region. Amidst growing tensions in West Asia, foreign governments continue to warn their citizens to leave Lebanon immediately amid fears of an all-out conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. The US and UK issued warnings to citizens in Lebanon to leave the country immediately. On Saturday, the US Embassy in Beirut has urged its citizens to leave Lebanon on any ticket available, whereas giving similar warning, UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy said that the regional situation could deteriorate rapidly. The recent unrest was triggered by the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on Wednesday and killing of Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut. It is feared that the terror group Hezbollah could play a key role in any such retaliation, which in turn could spark a serious Israeli response. And now DD India's Trent Murray joins us live from Beirut. Trent, how are tensions shaping up in West Asia in view of the Hezbollah-Israel tensions and Iran vowing retaliation to Hamas leader Haniyeh's killing?
Yeah, that's right. I think there's still just a sense of anticipation here in Lebanon around what will happen next, given some of the rhetoric that we have heard, of course, from the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, who has vowed that him and his militant group will respond to that airstrike here in Beirut back on Tuesday, which killed one of their most senior military commanders. I think for many Lebanese here in the capital, they are doing their best to go about normality and enjoy their Sunday and weekend, but probably in the back of their mind, they know that this situation could spiral out of control as both sides seem to be ratcheting up both the rhetoric but also their public displays of force. The US obviously sending military assets here to support Israel, and Hezbollah firing rockets into northern Israel from Lebanon. So look, I think just a sense of unease right now at what could be around the corner, as it really feels like West Asia could just be on the brink of quite a major escalation and even a major war.
Yes, we could come to that. How real is that possibility, Trent, of, like you said, a wider conflict, a major war in West Asia?
Yeah, well, look, I think, we need to remember that since October of last year, Hezbollah and Israel have been trading fire, but it's largely been concentrated on the border regions in the south of Lebanon and in the north of Israel. And what happened on Tuesday here with that airstrike, according to Hezbollah, is that the red lines were crossed and the sort of unwritten rules of engagement between the two sides had been broken, and that is why we're seeing now this escalating rhetoric. So I think the risk is very real here because, of course, we're not just talking about Hezbollah and all of this, but we're talking about that broader axis of resistance, as they call themselves, very much led by Iran. Now, Iran itself is vowing to retaliate against Israel for that strike that we saw in Tehran again earlier this week, which killed Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas. And so right now you just sort of see all these moving pieces right now, with the trend line suggesting it's escalating in terms of rhetoric and displays of force rather than subsiding. We understand, of course, diplomats are working desperately to try and defuse those tensions. We know the Egyptians and the Jordanians have been having conversations with the Iranians to try and ask them to not show such a huge show of force here, but we understand the Iranians are not necessarily listening right now. They say they really do want to avenge that hit in Tehran, and so right now everyone just on standby to see what happens next.
Right, Trent, also with several countries urging their nationals to leave Lebanon immediately, are people already scrambling to leave, even as a growing number of flights we know are being cancelled or suspended at the country's own commercial airport, the only one in Beirut?
Yeah, that's right. For people trying to leave, the situation is quite fraught. I wouldn't say that it's a scene of panic or people scrambling to make it to the terminal buildings or anything like that, but it certainly is difficult because you have all of these governments now lining up, telling their foreign nationals to get out immediately, warning them that there could be a crisis around the corner, but at the same time, the number of seats is just not enough. The demand is far outstripping capacity, and that's largely because many major airlines have cancelled their services here. Pretty well all of the Europeans, like British Airways, Air France, Lufthansa, are not flying here because of safety concerns. There really is now only a handful left from the Middle East. And so while you are getting these warnings on one hand, and for people trying to follow that advice, it's difficult to then act on it given that there is just so few flights. As you said, the reason it's a concern is because there is only one functioning commercial airport in all of Lebanon, that is Beirut International Airport. And for people here, they remember back in 2006 when the last war happened, one of the first targets of the IDF was that international airport, and it was out of action for 6 weeks. So I think that's why you're hearing that rhetoric from foreign governments, because they're concerned that if there is a war, the airport could become non-functional, and then you effectively have tens of thousands of foreigners stuck here with nowhere to go, unable to leave.
Trent reporting from Beirut.